Well, finally, since December of 2019, I finally finished simulating the 2019 NAFL season, as I've been busy with a whole bunch of shit since I first started this back in December of last year, but it's finally done now today. And here was the regular standings results for 2019. As the Boston Luck won their division again. They struggled at the beginning of the year, but they managed to turn around and get home field advantage again. The St. Juan Islanders got into the playoffs for the first time ever. And then, of course, the Washington Stars. They at first had a really strong start to the year, but then they choked it at the end, unfortunately for them. Blew an opportunity to get into the playoffs. The St. Louis Archers made the playoffs for the first time ever. The New Orleans Jets got back in. Oh my God, the Dallas Bulls choked it so hard. They had the opportunity to at least win the division, if not still make the playoffs, but they choked it on the final week. All they had to do was win, and they were in. Unfortunate. Miami had a win season, couldn't make it in. And look at that. The defending champion Mexico City Aztecs, they went 7-11. They had an okay start to the year, but then it just fell apart after the halfway mark. And oh my God, the Orlando Galaxy, they completely collapsed. They were 1-15 at one point. They won their final 2 games to prevent like the worst record in the league history. And then the big rivalry in Anthony's division, the Phoenix Cactus and the Oakland Oats, actually struggled a bit this year, but the Phoenix Cactus this time won the division as Oakland just barely even got into the playoffs. And then we go over to my conference with the Montreal Saints winning their division after missing out last year, as the Richmond Panthers once again made the playoffs. Philadelphia, I believe, had their first ever win season, but still was enough. And then how about that? The San Antonio Steers, after a terrible season last year, got into the playoffs with the #1 record in my division. That was incredible. And of course, the Memphis Jets also made the playoffs for the first time ever as well. And oh my God, look at Detroit's defense. They allowed almost 600 points. That's probably like one of the worst defenses in this entire league. And then the Cuban Patriots made the playoffs for the first time ever, getting first round bye. And then we go over to the Western Division. The El Paso Texans once again getting into the playoffs, winning their division. And the Minnesota Raccoons, who made the championship last year, also like Mexico City, had a losing record, finished 7-11 to everyone's surprise. So as you can see, the playoff matchups, the seedings, I mean to say, #1 was Boston at 14-4, #2 St. Louis at 13-5, #3 Phoenix at 12-5-1, #4 New Orleans at 12-5-1, #5 St. Juan at 13-5, and then finally Oakland at 12-5-1 in Anthony's division, conference. My conference had #1 San Antonio 15-3, #2 Cuban 14-4, #3 Lubbock, 13-5, #4 Montreal 13-5, #5 Richmond at 10-8, and last up, the Memphis Jets make it into the playoffs for first time ever at 10-8. So, for the playoffs, wildcard round, Oakland visited Phoenix in a rivalry matchup. This time, Phoenix would get the win. Defensive struggle, 10-9, followed by St. Juan visiting New Orleans, and New Orleans holding off for the win, 20-17. Then in my conference, oh God, Memphis visited Lubbock. Lubbock had a 27-7 lead going into the fourth, and they choked it. Memphis made the comeback to take the lead 28-27, but Lubbock would get in the end the last-second field goal. Reminds me a lot of the Seahawks-Falcons divisional round playoff game of 2012. That's pretty much what this was. And then Richmond visited Montreal in the divisional matchup. Richmond had the lead going into halftime, but Montreal made the comeback to win it 27-26. So then in the divisional matchup, we first had New Orleans visiting Boston, and in a defensive struggle, Boston just held out for the win, 22-21, to make it to the conference championship for the second year in a row, as they had to do a 53-yard run with their quarterback to get the game-winning touchdown with just a minute left into the game. And then we had Phoenix visit St. Louis, and Phoenix was dominant in the first half, but then St. Louis took over and held on for the win, 35-30, to make it to the conference championship for the first time ever. Then it was Montreal visiting San Antonio, and San Antonio with with one of the league's best offenses, after being down in halftime, came back and just destroyed Montreal with 24 points in the third quarter to win it 41-20 to make it to the conference championship for the first time ever. And then Lubbock visited Cuban, and that game went back and forth, but Lubbock just dominated pretty much the entire game as they won it 27-20, and they made it to the conference championship for the first time since 2017. Then, the conference championships. First off, in Anthony's conference, St. Louis at Boston. Boston had the lead the entire game. They never relinquished it in a defensive struggle as they won it 17-13 to make it to the title game for the first time ever after falling 1 point short of making it there last year to Mexico City. And then in my conference title game, Lubbock at San Antonio. All Texas matchup too. Lubbock dominated the game. San Antonio just could not keep up as Lubbock would win it 35-21 to finally make it to the title game for the first time ever. And then finally, the Nafl Championship game, as always, in Honolulu, between Anthony's Boston Luck against my Lubbock Texans. As the game was very close, halftime, Boston led 17-14. Then they had a late third quarter touchdown to take a 10-point lead going to the fourth. But then my Texans made the comeback to tie the game up at 24. And for the first time ever, the title game was going to overtime. And in overtime, Boston won the coin toss, but they stalled at midfield. Lubbock got, but they could not go anywhere. So then they kicked the ball back to Boston, and then the incredible happened on 2nd 6 at the Boston 45. Their quarterback, Carlos Gabriel, had a 55-yard run for the game-winning touchdown as Boston would win it 30-24 in overtime. As Gabriel, definitely the MVP of this game, as he was 26 of 38, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, plus 3 runs for 62 yards in the game-winning touchdown. So, 4 touchdowns from him. Incredible. As Anthony is still undefeated in the championship. He is 3-0 in the championships. Wow, that sucks. This was the closest game, too, as well, remember. Let's see, as I'm looking at the stats off the top of my head. Oh, this is not the closest one. It's the first one went to overtime, but Boston beat Lubbock by 6. The closest still remains Oakland beating Birmingham by 2 years ago. And of course, remember last year Mexico City destroyed Minneapolis 17-3. I think it was Minnesota, I mean to say. But yeah, that is the end of the 2019 NAFL season as Anthony once again wins another title, this time by the Boston Luck, 30-24 in overtime over my Lubbock Pilots. Oof, that sucks. But that'll wrap up this video, and hopefully soon I can get to work on the 2020 NAFL season as, hey, it finally caught up once again with the current year.